in a God. They've always feared, fear, not fear, but reverence. That the minute they had, we are praying, they took off their hat and they prayed. So one of the things that the colonialists used and exploited so well was that belief in a God. So how do you want us to pray? So they are saying, yeah, we know God. So now that we are together with you, we cannot face Mount Kenya. How do you want us to pray? Okay, but before that, we have to change your name. So because your name is not really acceptable, you know.
Hello guys, my name is Golden Boy and I'm really grateful that you have clicked on this video. Now today I want to talk about this video, and the topic mainly is how did Christianity spread in Kenya. And in this video we want to talk about this woman is going to discuss much about how we conquered the slavery, how we conquered the colonizers in Kenya, and is going to use Bantus, because we always believe that Bantus are the people who fought for this country with the help of Mau Mau. Let's dive into this video, then I'll come back and I'll discuss as much as possible. Salute.
Well, thank you very much for making me a part of this story. I look around and I see young people and I feel very excited, because anybody without a history is a slave, mental slave, because anybody can call you a name and you answer to that name. But when you know who you are, where you have been, where your people have been, you owe that loyalty to yourself and to them. I was born in January 20th, 1941. And of course, for your relations, get me my tamana 4 times, and for the boy is 5, and I hope you know why the boys had 5 and the girls had 4, because some women argue, particularly the feminist Kikuyus, that why give the boy more than the other. We actually had the 5th one was like recognizing the fact that that young man will go to the forest to fight, will go to the field to fight, to protect. At that long time ago, we were fighting with the Maasais, and they were actually fighting for wealth. Since this land of yours, and I'm looking at Loresho now where we are sitting, this land was taken over by the British colonialist, you know, by Delamere, Lord Delamere, actually, who grew coffee here, because they were giving the natives blanket in exchange. And again, I try as an academician myself, I try to understand our Kikuyu men, why were so giving? Why did they allow themselves to be compromised? Because they really believed in their land. But for some reason, we go again to our culture. When people come to visit you, just like the Hebrews, you welcome them, and generosity, you give them food before you ask them how they are. And you know, it's also something that I also look at, the greetings. Nikwega, you know, is it all well? Where you come from, Nikwega. How are Mwinabra? Do you have rain? Mwina nikimwato keria. What do you have that is more like than we have? And finally, Wimwega. You know, how are you? So this whole thing shows you the whole concept of encompassing the life, the holistic way of life that was the Kikuyu way. So then there comes, and of course, remember the biblical story of how Jesus says, when somebody comes, you give them their feet and they wash their dust, and then give food. So I try to understand that my paternal and maternal grandfathers, and plus their age mates, they gave in so easily because of that cultural thing.
There was also the concept,
yes,
of Mugani Nirui.
This is it, Mugani Nirui. You know that a guest is passing through, so welcome them. So what do? A white man comes, and of course there had been prediction that he will come, and you don't know. You always think a guest is bringing something good to you, and because they are passing, you welcome them. So the Western culture is not like that at all. So here is my grandfather said, and they are whatever, you know, agreeing, or we bring blankets, and so they say, oh, that is good, you know, we didn't have, and therefore whatever they are going to talk, you've already compromised because you think their culture and their cultural practices are like yours, that they are not going to grab and take over what you have. Where you come from, they also believe in bari, in a clan-like, you know. So just like they came and used their culture superiority of us, then we are also judging them from our own cultural understanding, you know, that these people are going to be here for a short time, maybe after one kemera, you know, after maybe we had 2 chimeras, you know, kianjahi na kiake, I remember as we go on, na kianjahi gusiria, kianjahi, that was from March, April, from September. Namwere. Mwere was the one that was not as productive. The whole idea that this person who has come, who is the guest, is going to pass through, is dominated, and therefore is it just land that you want? Right there. But again, I would like to emphasize judging those people according to our own cultural orientation. We are kind people, and I like what you said, because again, in my research, I realized whenever there was a crossroad, the Kikuyus built agakombe, a small house, where after harvesting, they took maize, they took beans, they kept it there. That kanyomba at the crossroads, Masamanidio, is where poor people went to get the food at night when nobody saw them. That shows really who we are, you know, how kind. And that whole thing has been misunderstood, misinterpreted, because it's like we don't understand money. We don't understand, you know, that you have to always monetize things. But I do know, growing up, that tokombeto utwaleho. Now, in my own home, we had one man who didn't have a wife, had passed many, and that guy was like our family. In the morning, whatever we were having porridge, he was a part of it. And whoever came, again, you know, it's a very interesting thing. And every time I think you have heard me talk like that, Professor, that I am because we are. And because we are, I am. It was so real and lived. I've seen it lived, you know, that there was nothing like I can't give you. And you can also give me, of course, you know, and by that I mean whatever is possible. You can't give all your what you have, but the thing is to empathize with your next door neighbor. Whenever the white people went, they first built a school, they built a church number 1, church and a school. And then, of course, the administration. So, Ngenda had a mission school. And the head there, Protestant, you know, it was a Scottish, you know, Scotland mission church, Presbyterian. It was headed by a woman we called Bibi. Bibi is like Memsap or whoever, you know, it starts from there. Bibi is like, it's not an ordinary woman, it's a Bibi, you know, that you have got to address her. So they lived there, they ate different food, the men cooked for them, which was again very unusual. So when we saw them, that name itself, when I saw them, it's like, it's not one of us. So for me, I knew this is a person who is higher than I am. This is a person who is different. And I remember saying that I was really quite interested in going to their toilet. I don't know why, because my African-American friends told me, don't ever talk like that again. But I saw these people as a mystery, you know. Me, white people, it was like they were not real. And I really wanted to know, what do they eat? Do they even go to the toilet? What kind of a toilet? Our toilets were outside, and they had a toilet inside. So I was able to go, because I was going to school, and my mother was a big person in the church. So we could go into the Bibi's house and be given wheat, biscuits, 1 or 2. And so we longed for that. This is a new thing, and it tastes good. So I look forward. So the white person was a mystery as far as I'm concerned. I never took her as a human being. Not one of us. And therefore, I didn't call them a monkey like they call us in a lot of literature. But I saw them like, they're not one of us, and therefore I didn't accept. So there was that hierarchy, which I'm going to address later on, because as I grew, I went to pick coffee from their large acreage, which they had taken by force again. So when we went there, he has the money, and we didn't have money. So what do I want? Things are sold. When I was growing up, when I was very young, we really didn't have that concept of money. But then the whole beauty concept, as you can see, I just love. And women just love earrings and whatever. And of course, the Kikuyus also. Like now, they have different ones that are not made by the Kikuyus, but new ones. So there was that enticement. Let me go work for the white people because they have money. So my concept of a white person is a mystery, maybe up to today. I remember, later on when I was actually in training school in Kambui, that whenever a white person came, we cleaned everything and hid all our nyongo pots, African nyongos and everything, and therefore produced cups, which they had introduced. Siakauru, so that we would show we are part of you. My people, who are the Kikuyus, they've always believed in a God. They've always feared, fear, not fear, but reverence. That the minute they had, we are praying, they took off their hats and they prayed. So one of the things that the colonialists used and exploited so well was that belief in a God. So how do you want us to pray? So they are saying, yeah, we know God. So now that we are together with you, we cannot face Mount Kenya. How do you want us to pray? Okay, but before that, we have to change your name. So because your name is not really acceptable, so you have your name changed. So I hope I'm answering you in a very big understanding, because then your name is changed and whatever you are is put aside. And it's like a new rebirth. You are a new person now who is into this. So we lived two cultures. In that church, we prayed like this. And a lot of people, therefore, how they looked at it is, Nimodongo. There's a white person, Muzungu. I don't even know what Muzungu means actually in Kiswahili. Muzungu, what does it mean? Anyway, Nimodongo in Kikuyu is Muzungu. And then we are like saying, to be considered civilized, to be considered better than who you are, you have to have this name. So the villagers longed to have those names. Yeah, you are named Josephine. Is it Josephivo? Is it a horse pipe or what is it? It sounds nice. And the Kikuyus, I must say, we love novelties. So people are rushing to be given those new names. So the whole concept of what they talked of white people is strangers. Strangers who are different from who we are. But they started understanding them when they then made Nairobi their place, and that only a few people. I was hoping I would have my passbook, but it's with somebody in Mombasa, and I told them to, because we know later on we have to have a passbook. But to answer, I'm still answering you, because not everybody understood the injustices of the white people, particularly those where we were in Ngenda, because there was no white people, and the ones who came, they took us to school, they taught us how to read, so we were very grateful. And whatever it is they were teaching us, we thought that was very good. But when we then start encroaching Nairobi, and those who lived in Nairobi, those are the ones then who really saw what was going on. And I don't think people understood the white person until they went they joined the Second World War II, where they really saw black people were shooting better than even the white people. And they saw their weakness. That was the beginning of really rubbing shoulders with those people. They had songs like, I remember, I wish, tufunge safari, amri ya nani, kaputeni, amri ya KR. You know, KR was Kenya, whatever. African Rifles, yeah. So this, what do we think of this? I mean, it's a good song, and they are marching, and they have got uniforms, and I think there was that big admiration from a young girl, you know, looking, because normally men did not have that good clothes. These have got shoes, these have got uniform. They are doing things that no one else ever did, because otherwise we were, you know, dancing differently. So there was a lot of admiration of what they were bringing, you know, the fact that they could do things that we couldn't do. My neighbor's name was Wamboiwa Mushina. Wamboiwa Mushina never converted into Christianity like my mother. This woman, Wamboiwa Mushina, they were very clever. They knew you don't start with the Christians. Othing started with non-Christian in Gatondo, where I'm talking about. So they called them, because those people were close to their culture. The Josephines and the Chauses of the day were kind of segregated by the Kimathi and all these people movement. So they started with the people who knew the meaning of being a Kikuyu. So they would have oaths. So this woman was a very good of my mom. She also, her husband had died, and they had one thing in common. They were widowed, and they would see how men, because again, some cultural things have started dividing where they would not respect widowed women. And they would be like, if a woman has no husband, you don't want them to associate with your wife. So they had a very close knit, and Wambui broke her oath. Came and told my mother, that's how close, and say, if you do this, I might die. But if I die, I don't want you to die, because this is what's happening. But at that time, they would be given the oath, a statement, you know, that you'll never betray. And then I was being told, I never saw this, you would go around like 7 times, and they would also, of course, have some blood and mixed with cow dung, you know. I mean, you know, the intestines, how you comedia, you know, how you take out that is what they would, you know, something to really know. This is blood. Blood is sacred. So the idea of what we are doing this in sacredness, because blood is life, and life connects to God. So we are doing this, and God is with us. And if you betray this, may you die. So there was no respect for life for somebody who cannot feel bound to that oath. And so they had, I think, 1, 2, or 3. That made them mum. You come and ask, people today, if they are shown 1 million, they will even have 1 million they will give up. But these people kill me. I don't know what you're talking about. So they were to sacrifice whatever they had to be able to get the land back from the white people. And yeah, they went from home to home, and then they were also being told, and this is where again Wambui came in very handy. We were 3 girls. Remember, I told you my brother died. So my older sister Murugi, who is now passed, bless her heart, was earmarked to be taken to the forest and to cook for them. And when they were just to come, we would always go to the nearest. There was 3 to forest everywhere to get something to sweep with. So I'd gone there to take one, and I found this man whom I knew, Kamarwa Moiro. Kamarwa Moiro had, they used to have, their hairs were long, and then they had like that thing they put on Jesus Christ, like the thorns. They would wear something to camouflage them. They actually look like you couldn't tell them from the tree. So there's Kamau, and I'm like, Kamau Mwega, I'm just shouting. And then he turned out to be like, no, So I ran home. I went and told my mother, please just make chapati. I was frightened, seeing a person I know who refuses to recognize me. And my mother said, don't you say anything. So that very day, Wambui came, told my mother, they are coming to get Murugi. That's my sister, my first late sister. So you better move. You go wherever you can, because they will definitely take her. So we were frightened because they were capable of killing you if you didn't go their way. Now these people in the movement, and that's the way it should be. I mean, we are fighting for the same cause, but because you are you are Christian and you don't understand, you can be resistant. But here, so at this point, I don't care. I like them to kill because, but at that point, I was saving myself. So I told my mother, make chapatis for me because I know we are going to die. And that's what I want, chapatis in my stomach, So we did not sleep at our house. I don't know whether you have heard of Muruwaitina. Muruwaitina. I don't know whether that the name could have been bottom. So the Kikuyu, just like they say, then they will say the bottom is Itina. So he would, they did not, he was notoriously known to kill on sight. I remember sleeping on the trees. He would climb up the tree, let the car pass, because the car is in the dark, in the dark time of the night, and one car coming, there were no light. One car would really show you, the high beam would be on. So the minute we saw that, we knew time had come. At least I knew my time to die had come. So then we did that several times, going to sleep there. But in the meantime, it's not just walking, it's climbing up the tree and hiding, because this Mr. Bottom, as I would want to call it, was a policeman, because he used guns, and he came with a police vehicle, Land Rovers. That's what they drove.
Would you say you are the children were traumatized?
Yes, we were traumatized. Indeed, that's the word.
Yeah.
We were traumatized by the fear, because we didn't know that we would be there next time. Because I remember always telling my mom, give me chapatis, because chapatis was the food for Christmas, not these days, but we only had that for Christmas. So as a young person, I just wanted, we may not be there. That's a trauma. That's a trauma, without a doubt. And no wonder you're finding that the results of that trauma in our lives a lot later. Trauma is something that affects your mind. You feel it's emotional disease. An emotional disease that takes away the trust that you had for your father, for your uncle, for the community to protect you, for the government. There is no one to protect you. And there is no one to explain to you, because this underground movement was not telling people the education. The only people who received education were those who went for oathing. Those who were not a part of it, they didn't understand. And whenever you have whenever you have a situation where you want the public to be a part of it, just like now they have been saying democracy, you have got to involve the people to tell them what's happening. So you have this huge group that does not understand. Two, the Kikuyu way of doing things. Young people like you, if you are not circumcised, you cannot be told things, particularly things that are confidential, because you have not been socialized to keep secrets. But you're overhearing, as a child, you're overhearing things. So there is trauma. Is there trauma also for the older people? Of course, because they are unable to protect their wives. And later on, as you know, there was no rape. No Kikuyu man raped a woman. All the rape came from other people, from the white people. Because there was that whole thing of circumcision. I tell you, if I had a way of just saying nobody should be circumcised in the hospital. Circumcision for both men and women. And I know that will shock you. I don't want to go further, but I do support them. Because it's not really about the cut. Forget about the cut. It's the psychological part that followed, that made you swear that you will never hurt a woman, that you will never hurt another person that is a part of you. Anyway, the trauma of a man not being able to protect his wife, his children, his grandmother, his whoever, was great. Resilience is what came automatically, particularly from our culture. Because our culture, one of the characters that we emphasize is courage. Courage, whether you are seeing, whether you are taking your dead mother, like me, your dead father, you cannot allow yourself to collapse. And there are a lot of proverbs that sustained people. I would say that is what sustained people, that we know. We are dying because of our soil. Yeah, let me die. Let me die, and I'll never tell these strangers anything about the oath. I will die for what I believe in. Again, integrity. I would say integrity and the courage what our people had, and really I cry very often when I'm talking about that, because integrity is what our people knew. And I think that is what provided the resilience that enables us to cancel ourselves from internal. Because we cannot let go. We have to survive. Crying, as you know, has never been encouraged among the Kikuyu. But that came as a confusion later on. So, having not received that counseling, and then having the cultural breakdowns with the Christianity or what, I would say then we started copying drinking. The Kikuyu drinking was only ceremonial. When a baby has been born, when there is a wedding, celebratio, you all know that word, you know, where you are paying dowry or whatever, that exchange. And when there was not this drinking. And I would say the consequence of that trauma, andu makiambiriria kunywa njohi uria yanyuagwo ni muthungu na tukiona hi ni mukenu uria njugire kuria tone mamwonirie akinywa njohi. Every time there is any celebration, there is cause, you relax with a beer. Kogwo riu andu makiambiriria kunywa excessively, you know, that they became drunkards. And it was not only men, even women realized. 1956 really is where this whole thing is. So now, apart from you have all been killed, some people have been killed. Remember, what was it called? Warari, Muito Warari. You know, so many died. And by the way, they are my husband's relatives, actually, those where it happened. So you are hearing of all these deaths. You are seeing people at Tumia Magekirwa bottles. But I remember that used to be a huge bottle of Coca-Cola, which was not plastic, but actually glass, being put in private parts of a woman. My own relative in Deya, that was done to her. And these Johnnies, they were called Johnnies, the British young people who were all released here, put order in this colony because it's not controllable anymore. I think you probably have heard of that. So those women who were raped, and they are raped by the Johnnies who are drinking, because they saw them drinking. They would drink and also rape them and then put bottles in their... Can you imagine? You probably have sisters, mothers, what kind of a thing that is. And it's not one person, it's not two people, it's a lot of people. And the ones who refused to tell of the Mau Mau, their breasts were pressed, and the others, most of the people, they were castrated, you know that. Just because those people refused to part with the information. Yeah, that which wanted, so that they can be incriminated. So all those people, they never received counseling. They never received even the honor for the nation. And I'm not saying this to dishonor the government, because the Christian, the non-Christians, the government, the educated, we are all in one camp. We are all trying to know who we are. We've lost our identity at that point. That's why I'm saying you can't even recognize that these people are the ones. And I think this is how I interpret this as a psychologist, that this is how they were not even given land, those who died for us. This is how they were not even recognized, because there were very many. There was no ways of learning who those people. And I'm so glad you are doing this, and I really hope you young people are going to look deeper into it and say, wow, this is how can we modify some of the things that we do that would probably help us to help those people who came up with the idea of the Mau Mau, because the whole thing was so selfless. And yet we are now seeing people killing their mothers, people sleeping with incest, everywhere. We are seeing all this. So what is all this? And that's a very good question you asked, because it's not only that generation followed. That generation became selfish, became like, now, this is who I am, this is mine. And the British did not have respect for women. I hope you know that. And that the women who were respected, nobody could beat his wife in front of the parent. That's the mother of, that's the husband's mother, and that's the husband's fathers. Because of that, you can't beat my mother. And that was the end of it. And so there were a lot of things that sustained that first generation. But because they were not talking, now they are civilized, and they are also not being taught how to come up, the age group that kept people together, that respected that you couldn't do anything, started disintegrating. So in my view then, the government even forgot how to honor. And if there was any place where women were discriminated, it's the Western culture. And remember, for the longest time, they could not even vote. I will talk about the Kikuyu. The Kikuyus recognized women. There was a council of women, and I don't even understand why men are just refusing women, because the women had their own council. If there was a case, they said, go ask the women. The Nyakenyuas like me. The Nyakenyuas who have finished having their children, who have, who had their hairs all combed, out, they had a say in the society. Remember, I told you, polygamy had an order. Polygamy did not keep their women. The whole idea of polygamy was not just sleeping. It was just not based on sex. Women were more respected as human beings who are capable of their own, who are professionals, who have authority in some areas more than men. Okay, so the feminist movement came as a result of they couldn't vote where they were. That's why I'm talking of the Council of Women and Council of Men, which is equality. It's a recognition of equality. Over there, women could not vote. Over there, women could not be employed. Women in traditional Kikuyu life, they had their own hut, they had their own piece of land where they farmed, they produced their produce, took it to the market or give it away. The rest they saved in a granary, ikombe. The man, his house is not among the four. His house is right there, Vingira. That is where his house is, okay? So the woman has a lot of autonomy in her own hut, in her own garden, and whatever she did with her produce was not her husband's what? Business, okay? So that was the Kikuyus. Now, occasionally, just like you have women, like you have naughty people, there's some women who will do things that are not becoming. And usually, Bariangania, because we have that what do you call it? I mean, there is patriarchal society. Nembale yangania usually is man. Ugo mondolia ugo sadoka. Ne muthuri ucio. Nego kane okunywa ruhi. But there was no total war. That's what I used to call it. Ulinge mutumia itina, ulinge haha. But yeah, there was nothing like that because your age mate, now, they will make sure you behave the way you should be. Tamudhuri, mudoradhura, what to do. Choose. Mudhuri is somebody who chooses what to do. So there was no war. What about in the West? There was war. Ego kuhora.
What I've come to study in this video is that if you start to think to be inferior to someone because he has some knowledge you lack, you make that person believe is superior than you. And there is no such thing as being superior or inferior to anyone, no matter your race, your social, economic, and the knowledge you may have. These are part of the world, and people are more than material things and knowledge. These things are used for humans to navigate in the world and make their life more comfortable. Humans are spirits, beings, and all spirits are made of image of God. Now, which is the Greek theology with Jesus mixed and God is not in that racism stuff? Is strong against it. He died on the earth to save it. Only Jesus was the one who changed people's name. Not sure why they were changing your name. Now it is also a part of Christianity to not to pray to idols. Why? Because they are made up of man's hands. They can't breathe or speak. It is so unfortunate that all these atrocities have happened to African people along with African Americans and are still happening today. It is very, very sad, but it is also part of our own problem. Now, we want to talk about this and like who betrayed who. Now, one of the things that I also come to realize in this video is that we as Africans, we as black people, I told you in some of my videos that the only weaknesses that we have as a society, as a black people, is that we are usually kind enough. Like, I've also studied myself. I've found out that I'm really, really kind and very, very ready and willingly to help someone. Now, like he said, long time ago, people were really, really welcoming, and because these people were coming with goodies, they were welcoming them warmly. The problem is that, do you think the problem is all about Christianity or it is also about African culture? Now, why? Because Christian Bible tells us that to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. The problem is that some white people have mixed Greek theology and methodologies together, where whites are supreme and those who are not blue-eyed with blonde hair were not. That's what their belief is. When Rome came into power, they kept practicing those same beliefs as they conquered other cultures. So Jesus, when he came on earth, and he was very, very kind and will even serve the people as well. So I think we need to break down the real Christianity versus the fake Christianity. Now, the thing that I believe that should be removed is that the name Negro. Like those times people were being named nice names. I've found even my mom had almost similar English name. I also have an English name. So the thing is that even Malema has always talked about is the land. The moment they take away your land, they have also taken your ancestors' land, everything. The land is always your ancestral land. Remember, if you die, that's the place you'll be buried. The same land, it is all where the children, grandchildren will be buried. So the worst thing the colonizers did is they took away our lands. Through what? Through gifts. Like he said, we were being given gifts, then we give out our land. Yeah. And also another thing that they also did as bad is mental erasmus. Like I said in my other videos, that they came and they rename your children, give them Christian name, and not that, they also taught them about religion. They taught them about Bible. They came with the Bible, then they told you to pray. Then the moment you opened your eyes, they had the land, And you are the Bible. Up to date, we as Africans have always believed that we need to have a Bible, we need to believe in Christ, we need to believe in this and this, because everything is the best, everything on earth is found in heaven. And people don't know that our heaven is our earth, is on earth. And also another thing that people don't know is that we as Christians, we as human beings, we are the gods. There is no other God. We are the gods. And even the Bible says we need to clean our temples. Which temple did the Bible means? So you'll find that a lot of scriptures usually describe African and even the black people. Now, the name Negro should be banned from every book, because this was a name given to us. The Bible or Torah never even mentioned the name Negro. And to me, anyone who is dark, whether straight, wavy or curly hair, and is not very light or fair, as they are called, is colored person and not an European to me. So many so-called whites has a brownish color and rough features, like a friend of mine from Switzerland. And what as should be, he comes to stay 5 months in Trinidad. Now, all Africans need to have information presented, and of course, I've heard about the Mau Mau movement in Kenya. I've been following this Mau Mau movement. This was someone who was talking, but I'm now investigating further, such as interesting and incredible group that every African should know about, but it was deliberate to divide and separate us. West African and from Eastern, the most impacting memory I have of the Mau Mau is the event arrest of General Kimathi unrepentantly till his last breath. We were told that is a terror, but today I know better. Like Mandela, General Kimathi is my hero. Now, I hope you learned something in this video. I didn't have much to talk about. Now, I'm going to give you this person. This person who was talking was called Dr. Kamau, and she's a retired psychologist, former dean of students at the University of Nairobi, former senior diversity officer at Penn State University, and former chair of Nairobi Professional Women Association. Dr. Wanjiru Kamau discussed the impact of encounter between Europeans and Africans and the rise of Mau Mau. Yeah, I said this. She comments on the psychological impact of colonialism and explains how Europeans took advantage of African and generosity to colonize. She also discussed the education of the African, the psychological aspect of the Mau Mau oaths, traditional morals and belief system, aspect of traditional medicine, the trauma of Mau Mau war, and other topics. I hope you have learned from this that Dr. Kamau is also the founder of the African Immigrant and Refugee Foundation, which is based in Maryland, USA. Now, currently, she is a member of the panel of eminent persons for the county peer review mechanism of the NEPAD's African peer review mechanism. I didn't have much to talk about this, but I'm also grateful that you have seen and you have heard what Dr. Wanjiru Kamau talked about in this video. Otherwise, see you in another episode, inshallah.